Oh, I think we're alive. Evening motivation. Oh, so this is the first of these live streams. So I hope everything's working. I think you can hear me, and I think the chat is probably going to work. There's a chat box like down there somewhere. I hope that's working for everyone. Yeah, feel free to say hi. If you want to chat, ask questions or anything, now is a pretty good time for it. I've got basically 45 minutes or an hour in Zwift tonight. Just a recovery ride. Thought it might be interesting to get into the streaming a little bit, basically chat about like summer racing, uh, the videos I've got coming up. Awesome. Glad the sound is good. I'm actually trying, I don't know if anyone's ever heard of that new NVIDIA RTX voice. Got that going right now, so hopefully the sound is really clear. It might make my voice a little weird. Um, yeah, just kind of want to give you all an update on my races that I've got coming up this summer, as well as some new things that I'm trying out soon. So, quick update on. Oh, and if anyone has questions about like triathlon or ultra running or whatever, feel free. Um, ooh, my bike's loud today. So quick update on my summer races. Ironman Maple Valley is basically pretty much radio silent. Haven't heard anything from them. I think if any of my summer races are going to happen, Maple Valley is probably the most likely to happen. That's a 70.3 early September, mid-September. And they've just been completely radio silent. Haven't heard anything from them. What else? Ironman Canada. Ironman Canada is apparently, well, they're also radio silent. All of my races are radio silent. The race director put out an email or a message to one person a while back that sounded somewhat positive. But the BC provincial health minister said basically like, we're not going to have any summer events. And I know the BC has already canceled a bunch of summer events, including some big ones. So I think there's like a 40% chance that Ironman Canada does happen, 60% chance it doesn't. Not super confident. What else? Ironman Coeur d'Alene half in like 7 weeks from now. Also radio silent. You might notice a trend. I don't think that one's going to happen, personally. Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, is kind of like a resort town, and Idaho is loosening restrictions pretty quickly, but I don't know. They're also radio silent. 6 weeks from now seems pretty early to have an event of like 1,000 people, 2,000 people. I know that ITU just put out some guidelines about like what's a safe event to happen, and I mean ITU is not Ironman, but their event guidelines were like racers should rack 2 meters apart, racks should be 5 meters apart, runners should run 4 meters apart. And it's just like, there's probably some CYA there, but I don't know if that's a great, like, I don't know if you can do a race like that. You live streamed a 50K treadmill run. That sounds terrible. 50K on a treadmill. I don't mind treadmill running. I mind it a lot less than some people do, but 50K on a treadmill sounds terrible. No wonder you're beat. I feel like the mental side of that would get me more than anything else. Not a fan. I was browsing YouTube last night and I found a kid. I wish I wrote down his username, but he's 12 and he did 100 miles on Zwift. And I was like, amazing. Good job. That's so cool. I'd be beat to do 100 miles now, let alone, like, he did it. I think it took him like 8 hours. But the thing that I noticed was like when he finished, he looked fine. Like, I'm sure he was exhausted, but Like if I sat on a bike for 8 hours, I'd get off and I'd just be like melt into bed. And he looks just fine. I was like, good for you, kid. If anyone's curious, I'm on a Wahoo Kickr Core. I think I have my trainer difficulty really low. I intend to have it really low right now. One thing I've been doing is these low intensity rides. I like turning trainer difficulty down because like I don't want to be responsive to grade changes. I just kind of want to ride at a low intensity and just keep a pretty consistent wattage. Couldn't get my heart rate monitor to connect for the life of me tonight because I'm doing this weird streaming setup. But this is a upper Z2, like just basically a recovery ride. Just trying to add some low stress TSS. So yeah, if anyone has any questions about like triathlon or ultra running, or you want to provide updates to your races, feel free. My next video, for those who are curious, I haven't actually started it yet, but I'm going to be doing 1 week of very, very high carb intake. I'm going to do 10 grams of carbs per kilogram of body weight per day, which for me is going to mean right around 700 grams of carbs. So 2,800 calories of carbs and, well, as low calories as possible in the other side of the equation, because I don't want to hit like 5,000 calories a day. But the idea is basically like, this isn't really a fat versus carb video, but as someone who is not a fat adapted athlete, I'm very carb adapted. It'll be kind of interesting to see, like, I've had, like, fueling is a constant struggle of mine, just in the day-to-day life, basically. So it'll be interesting to see, like, how my perceived exertion basically is. Like, I expect that I'll feel very good. That's how I felt in the past when I ate a lot of carbs. So yeah, it'll be interesting. If anyone has any go-to carb suggestions, feel free to drop them. There's only so many rice, beans, fruits, you know, all the standard stuff you can eat, especially if you're trying to stay, I hate the buzzword clean, but, you know, if you're trying to stay somewhat healthy, not just eat cakes the entire day. There's only so many limits. So yeah, this is pretty much what this ride is going to be. I'm not gonna set any sprint records on this one, and maybe one. We'll see if I feel like it. Been thinking about getting into the Zwift racing a little bit, but I recently realized I'm not going to be competitive in any category because I'm basically the low end of the B group. So, like, that's great, that's fine. But actually, I'm not even the low end. I'm like the middle of the Bs. But the problem is with Zwift racing, the way it works is it's not an FTP test. Like, it's not quite a time trial, but your FTP, your watts per kilo, is very, very, it's a very strong indicator of where you're going to finish in the race. So I'm not at the top end of a category, so I'm not really going to be competitive, basically. Like, I'm probably just going to finish right in the middle of the B's. So we'll see. Might be fun. Might do that Tuesdays. Tuesdays are my threshold VO2 max days in Trainer Road, which I like Trainer Road a lot. So I might swap some TR VO2 max work for a little bit of like hour-long Zwift racing, similar TSS. We'll see how that goes. I should be on a tri-bike right now, shouldn't I? It'd be more fun. I did recently get the new Envy wheels. It's kind of hard to show you on my Zwift bike, but yeah, recently got new wheels. Let me pull those guys up. Yeah, it's looking pretty good. getting caught by Jay Olson right now. Hi, Jay. Jay has cooler hair than I do. See, this is the problem with Zwift, is like, I'm motivated to stick on his wheel, even though that's not really like, it's a recovery ride. I shouldn't do that. Like, there's no reason to try to stick on someone's wheel in a recovery ride. I do the same thing like outdoors. It's the problem with using like going outdoors for recovery rides. Like, it's just very tempting to just like attack up this hill instead of PR, even though like that completely dismisses the point of recovery. One thing I would say, just like general advice that I've learned along the way, is people don't take recovery seriously enough. Like, I think people only think of training as those really hard days where you get off the bike and or run or swim, where you finish your workout and you're basically like destroyed and you're like, oh yeah, that was a great workout. But honestly, days like today where you just kind of like, I'm not going to feel this workout tomorrow. I won't even feel it tonight. But these easy, low effort rides are actually really good for fitness because they don't take a lot of recovery time. Oops. They don't take a lot of recovery time. Very, very low likelihood of injury or anything like that. You basically just add some stress to your body. You get a little fitter without paying too much physiological costs for the workout, essentially. So, yeah, not enough people do stuff like this, I think. I'm not necessarily, I don't know if any of you have ever heard of like 80-20 training. I don't necessarily subscribe to one training philosophy or another. 80-20 basically says like 80% of your stuff should be really, really easy. 20% should be really hard. You know, there's different philosophies, different things work for different people. But I don't subscribe to one or the other. But one of the things I do think is right is not enough people do easy stuff. Like, a lot of people would just attack this hill right now, whereas going slow is a really good, effective way to add some training stress. There's so many people who ride in Rafa kit around me because I live in Seattle. There's a Rafa clubhouse here. So like that guy who just passed me in Zwift is in an RCC kit, Rafa Cycling Club. There's so much Rafa kit around me. I've never worn it though. I don't know if it's actually like, I don't know if it's good. I kind of buy enough gear that I don't want to say I don't like taking chances, but you know, when you go through as much gear as I do, it's easier to just stick with something that works. Which for me, lately, and for a lot of years, really, has been it's been Castelli. Not sponsored or anything, but it just, I don't know, it lasts. It's high-ish quality. It's not top-tier pricing. It's pretty good stuff. I think Castelli is like my go-to. I've tried some other stuff. Giordano was really comfortable, but like Giordano was really comfortable. But I burned through 2 bibs crazy fast. Like I've never destroyed bibs like I did with Giordano bibs. I think they lasted me like a month. I don't remember, but just really, really short. What else have I tried? Pearl Izumi is good, like lower end stuff. It's got really good longevity. It just doesn't quite fit me that well. Louis Garneau is fine, but I haven't tried a lot of it. The black bibs, I know a lot of people love. It didn't work for me. Yeah, yeah, I don't know. I don't know what everybody's go-to is. I think Asos is really nice. I've seen 7 Mesh. I don't know if anybody's ever used 7 Mesh. I've heard of them. I don't know where they came from. I don't know anything about them, but I've heard people have been using them lately. So yeah, I don't have anything specific to talk about. So if anyone has any questions about like my training, or if you want to talk about your training, triathlon, ultra running, swimming, whatever you want, now's the time. This is just a really easy recovery ride for me. So no heart rate on this one because I could not get my heart rate monitor to connect, but this is a upper zone 2, super low zone 3 ride for me, 45, 60 minutes, depending on how we're feeling. It's also a bit of a test to see how the stream itself is working, because might get into a little bit of Zwift racing. So today is a test just to make sure that chat's working, which it looks like it is. Audio quality is good, hopefully. See what's up. For anyone who just joined, I was talking earlier about how like it's really tempting to just attack these hills, but it's a recovery ride, not an attack. So don't want to go crazy, but it's really easy to just like forget you're recovering and just all of a sudden be at like almost threshold. Just be like, oops. That's one of the biggest benefits, I think, of having a power meter on the bike too, is like RPE and heart rate training is good. It's really good. It's better than, like, it's a lot better than nothing. But the feedback isn't as quick, and you can zone out and miss stuff, like miss up basically, and all of a sudden you're at like 170 beats a minute, and you're just like, oh no, and then you drop it down. But like that affects your intensity factor. Your normalized power is going to go up. Essentially, you made your ride a lot harder than it should have been. So like, if you look at my blue graph on my screen, you'll notice I'm trying to keep it super, super steady. That is the sign of a good, basically of a good recovery ride. Actually, not even just recovery ride. That's a really good way to pace almost any ride, because the spikier that graph is, essentially like the more time you spend above threshold, the less average power you can do. Like this is a massively oversimplified way of thinking about it, but if say your threshold is 200 watts, you could hold an average power higher by staying at 200 watts dead on, rather than doing like 180 and then 220 and then 180 and then 219, or 180 and then 215. You'd be better holding 200 flat the entire time. So really trying to stay smooth is really, really important, which I'm not doing a great job of because I'm talking and not paying attention, but something to keep in mind. I feel like the roads on Zwift are just empty tonight. My dog has joined the stream. The other thing that's interesting that I've noticed recently is there's not a lot of people on this time of night. Like, I'm Pacific time, so obviously that's a factor, but way, way, way more people ride in the mornings, which was a bit of a surprise to me. I didn't realize there was that many people who rode in the mornings. I knew I'm a one-off, but let's see if we can hang with this person for a while. Get our average speed up a little bit. Which, that's exactly the type of mindset that's how you fall out of a recovery ride. But their pace seems Seems pretty reasonable. For those of you who are new to Zwift, when your avatar sits up like that, like mine is now, he's on the hoods. That's how you know you're getting the full draft. It's a little harder to do if there's only one other person, but if you're in a group ride, you'll see it for sure. And of course, if anyone wants to join this ride, feel free. In Watopia, obviously. I think we're on like a 15-ish mile loop, something like that. A little bit of climbing, nothing too crazy. The dog's hanging out. Someone correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure on these gravel sections in Zwift, it actually goes slower on a road bike. I think those people on mountain bikes go a little faster, which is kind of cool. See, and I really shouldn't close this gap down. Like, it just kills the point of a recovery ride. But it's like, how do you let someone ride away? I just can't. I just mentally just hate watching someone ride away from me. Oh, hey, Alvin. Mountain bikes are substantially faster on the gravel. Okay. That's what I thought. I didn't know it was substantial, though. I knew it was a little bit. I guess that makes sense. Alright. It's not a recovery ride if I chase him down forever, but I'll chase him down for a second. There. Oh, and now I look like a jerk because they flew by. I didn't even mean to. I do want to get, I think I need to get an ant key so I can run both Trainer Road and Zwift at the same time, because I prefer Trainer Road for actual training, but Zwift is kind of fun here and there. Like, these sorts of rides in Trainer Road are basically like the one thing in Trainer Road I don't really enjoy, where it's just like, 60%, 50%, relatively easy stuff, and you're just staring at the line. I personally enjoy Trainer Road quite a bit. I know some people find it a little boring, just staring at the blue line, but the harder rides, I think they're engaging. Like, that's all I want to do, right? Stare at the line, get my workout done. But trying to get a little more into Zwift because I feel like that's where a lot of the community is right now. Once Trainer Road gets their group workouts, they're working on like a matchmaking system. I don't know what it's going to be, but I sort of envision it like matchmaking in video games. I would love to do some more group workouts. I've been enjoying Trainer Road group workouts a lot. The only problem is you need to know people. So the Trainer Road forums has a forum, which is really good for finding people. But, if nobody's doing your workout, there's no other way to get anyone, basically. So I think they're going to implement something. They're also bumping it up from 5 people to 12. Well, you plus 4 others, or you plus 11 others, which is pretty cool. Alvin, I always see you giving me all the ride-ons the few times I'm in Zwift. I appreciate it. I'm like, there's one person out there who always notices. No, see, I would go for like a 15-second sprint right now, but I'm not going to go for a 17 or 20 minute like loop PR. Kind of defeats the purpose of recovery ride. But if there's any sprints coming up, if anyone knows the map better than I do, if there's any real sprints, you might have a go. Legs feel fine. I think, like, I know there's one on this loop somewhere, but I can never remember where it is. It's like over the bridge, where you like crest the hill, go down, get a bunch of speed on the descent, and then the sprint is like over the bridge. I like that sprint. Let's see. Yeah, I don't think I'm in the right loop. This doesn't look familiar for that. Do I focus on keeping a consistent cadence? That is a really good question. Not anymore. So, like, when I was new, like really new to cycling, I had a super low cadence, like 70 all the time. And somebody told me that that was bad. This was like 10 years ago. So I got a cadence meter on my bike, and I started to realize that I could go longer when my cadence was higher. Like, even still to this day, I don't have a ton of leg strength, like muscle. Not a muscular person. That high cadence style typically suits me pretty well. What you're seeing right now, 86, 87, this is as low as I ever ride. Kind of doing this just because it's recovery. So right now, it's pretty automatic for me. I still feel and I still find that my cadence is lower outside than inside. I've never understood why. Like, it's not intentional. It just happens. My cadence is always lower outside. In trainer road, I'm typically at like 95 to 100 is like bread and butter. 100 plus I do on VO2 max intervals. And then if I'm at 85 to 95, I'm in a bad place in trainer road. Like, if I'm at 85 in erg mode, things are not going well. So I know there are people who like low cadence, who like high cadence. I found that for me, cadence just works better. It's pretty automatic for me at this point. But it's not something I actively focus on, but like I just shifted up a little bit. This feels great. Like, this feels easy to me. So yeah. Laws, your cadence is 87 to 89. Would I work on getting it higher? Not necessarily. That's not that bad. Like, there's pro cyclists who live at 85 to 90. Like, you're in a good range. The people that I think could benefit from high cadence drills are the ones who are at like 75. Like, you're doing a lot of muscular force versus aerobic force. Like, your muscles are strong, but muscular endurance is inherently less than what aerobic endurance can be. So the lower your cadence is, basically the more you're relying on force versus aerobic endurance. Upper 80s is not bad. That's fine. Yeah, doesn't tire you out. I'm not surprised. Like, if you're doing indoor training, it might be fun to do some cadence drills, which is something that I do a lot. So, like, if you're doing structured indoor training, you're focusing on your watts. Like right now, for instance, I could just shift just like this, like get into a higher cadence. I might sit here for a few minutes, and am I going to ride outside at 105? No. But like teaching your muscles how to work at a higher speed is going to give you more options when you're out on the road. So you might have a day where your legs are not feeling it and you need to spin. It's really nice to know that like I can pedal at this speed without working hard. It doesn't feel fast to me. It's just nice to have those options. Yeah, you do. Yeah, cadence drills every couple weeks. Yeah, like I might say do it a little more. Like if you want to sneak one in for like once every couple workouts for a few minutes, just to do it. I also find indoor training, like sometimes it can be a little boring, so doing stuff like that is a nice way to just break it up and give yourself something to focus on. Because like if 102 is hard for you, you know, you might be able to hold a certain watts really easily. Might be boring, but if it's hard to hold that cadence, it just gives you something else to focus on. So like I just shifted down a little, or shifted up, and yeah, feels fine. But I like having options. Like I don't think you need to be spinning at 95 in order to be a good cyclist, but being able to spin at higher RPMs or a wider variety of RPMs is going to be good. There was a study that came out like a year ago, and it basically examined amateur cyclists and cadences and efficiencies, and they said that anything over 95 is not necessary. The part about that study that I've never been able to find a really good answer to is they're specifically talking about amateur cyclists and not pros or not experienced cyclists. And they kept saying over and over again, like an amateur cyclist, an untrained cyclist. And then like the whole cycling community picked up that study and was basically like, oh, high cadence isn't worth it. Look at the study. But the part that was never made clear to me is if that translates to experienced cyclists. So I accept their conclusion that over 95 wasn't worth it for inexperienced cyclists, but I don't know if that's necessarily fair to transfer it to experienced cyclists. Like maybe, like they weren't studying experienced cyclists, so I don't necessarily immediately draw that conclusion. Alvin, checklist on point, used it for your first 70.3. Nice. Fun fact, I have never done a half. I don't know how I skipped that. So you've got a leg up on me there. I've never done a half. Happy it worked out for you. I think triathlon, like more so than any other sport that I've ever been in, is just like you need fitness, but you need knowledge. Like there's just so much about triathlon that like you just have to know. And if you don't know, it's just so hard to find all this information because you don't know what you don't know. And like I know triathlon draws a certain personality type, and people have always tried to ascribe reasons as to why, but I think part of it is just, at least in my experience, like you have to spend all this time getting fit and then all this additional time learning. It's really hard. When do I work Zwift races into my plan, if at all? So it is a workout. It's definitely a workout. I've done one, maybe two Zwift races. I think just one. They're hard. They're really hard. Like no matter where you are in your category, no matter what category you're in, it's a race. And unlike outdoor cart racing or road racing even, in most Zwift races, it's basically a threshold test. Like that's not quite true. And I've watched races, typically higher up category races like A's, where the group will splinter, you'll get breaks up the road, And then once they've got a break, a gap, the group will then settle back down, and they'll be at kind of basically the power level similar to what I'm doing now. But in the D's, the C's, and the B's, most of the racing is basically just threshold. So if you were here for the start of the stream, I talked about I might do some Zwift racing. And to answer your question, for me, it would be on Tuesdays, because Tuesdays are my trainer road, VO2 max, and threshold days. So you're totally right. You should not just do races without implementing them into your plan, because they're likely really hard, especially 45 to 75 minute races. If you're on a structured plan, basically just do it on a day where you're doing like above threshold work, and then just be ready to recover really hard. The only thing here is, like, this is kind of a con of Zwift racing, is like you got to figure out your goals, right? Like, if your goals are to be a really good Zwift racer, great. If your goals are to be a really good triathlete or to be on a structured training plan, your Zwift racing can impact that. Like, it's not something you can just lightly add in. I think, yeah. Oh yeah, so you've done one. So yeah, feels like a threshold test. For sure, that's me. Like, so right now I'm in the mid B's based off my WKG, and it's actually kind of discouraging. Like, it makes me not want to race a ton, because I'm not one of those people that, like, oh, if I'm not going to win, I don't want to do it. That's not it at all. But I sort of feel like my results are predetermined, and I don't like that feeling. Like, there's not a lot I can do to improve my performance. I know that I'm smack dab in the middle of the category, and because of that, I'm probably going to finish in the middle of the field. And that kind of takes away the fun, because, like, I know that I'm going to work super, super hard, and I'm just going to destroy myself. I'm going to finish at like 70th percentile or 30th percentile. I don't ever remember how that works. Like a third of the way from the top. And it doesn't sound that fun. I do think that it might be a little more fun than trainer road, like 5 by 3 minutes at 107% kind of stuff. It's a good way to stay engaged. And if people like watching it, if you like watching me hurt myself for your entertainment on Zwift, I might do it. But yeah, Zwift racing is not like outdoor racing. Ooh, I have socks. Yeah. So I was a high cat C not that long ago, and that's when I did my race. And like, I don't know. Like, it was fun. I made the break, and then I got dropped from the break. I finished like 7th out of like 50 or 45 or something, which was fun. But yeah, it was just a threshold, like, through and through. Like, it was just me and a power number and a WKG, and there wasn't really any racing tactics. And I should caveat here by saying I've not done a lot of road racing or crit racing, but I was on my club team in college, so I know what it's like to race without, like, Zwift racing is all about power. For instance, if anyone watches NorCal cycling, which if you watch me, you should definitely watch him. He's basically me, but better looking and better. He's a really good sprinter, and he does, like, when he races on the road in crits, he demolishes because he can surf the field really well. He has excellent group tactics. He can surf the field, and then he can position really well for the sprint. But his first Zwift race, he got straight up dropped. The more Zwifting he's done better. He's doing, like, he's really strong. He's really fit. But he's not dominating in Zwift racing because his FTP or his WKG aren't top tier like some of those other people. No, well, that's a great question. Does it suit a triathlete who wants to stick to a steady power? Oh, see, because in a way, triathletes might be really well positioned, right? Because what we do is like steady state power. It's not massive surges. Like actual road racing or crit racing is like short power, like high power recovery, high power surf, high power recovery. Triathletes do hold power, but typically long course triathletes, like in an Ironman, you're typically holding about like 75, 77% of your FTP over the course of the day. Less experienced athletes, 72. And then shorter races, the shorter the race, the higher the percentage. But you're totally right. No triathlete is ever holding threshold, ever. Like we'll hold threshold during training as a way to bump FTP, but no triathlete is ever sitting at 98% for 55 minutes. It's just not how you train. Interestingly, Lionel Sanders has been doing very well. I was really impressed by how well he's doing in his racing. And then the flip side of that is there's a lot of pro cyclists who are not doing great in Zwift, which I find really funny. But for all those reasons we just talked about, they're obviously wildly powerful, but it's not the same. It's not the same. Ben Canute, I have not watched. I don't follow that much Zwift racing. Like I'm trying to, there's just so much of it. It seems like every second day there's another race. And I'm like, oh, I forgot about that one. Yeah, no kidding. That's all I've got too. I have done. What have I done? I did a couple. So I'm in Seattle. We're allowed to go outside. We're actually encouraged to exercise. I've done 2 weekend rides outside. I don't know. Like I just feel guilty when I do, just because like I just feel like I'm passing so many people on the trails. Like I'm trying not to be on super popular trails, but there's certain crowded parts you're always gonna. And I don't know. And then there's the whole like if you crash you take up a spot in the hospital and all that kind of stuff. So I'm really trying to minimize outdoor. I'm trying to do as much indoor as possible, but I think we all need a little mental break at points. God, 15 minutes each way. I am, one of my mental weaknesses is commuting. Like there's a lot of things I can do that some people wouldn't enjoy, but I can put my head down and suffer. I hate sitting in a car. Like 20 minutes, 25 minutes. Like if I have to drive longer than that, I will, but I hate it. I hate commuting. Just one of my quirks. Running outside every time. Yes. So I don't have a treadmill, and I am lucky to live in an area where there's not a lot of people outside. So I am running outside. Road or TT on the trainer? TT. Short answer. Long answer, I would rather have, well, my road bike is a 10 speed and my tri bike's an 11 speed, so they're not really compatible. I think you can sort of force it, but it doesn't work very well. So TT bike, because I don't like changing cassettes. And also, I discovered recently on my road bike, I'm very comfortable on my road bike outdoors. That comfort does not translate to indoors. My tri bike, I have an ISM. Love that saddle. Love. I can ride my tri bike indoors for 4 hours. Is 3:45 is the longest I've ever done. Totally fine. No discomfort. Road bike, nope. Which I didn't realize. I've never ridden my road bike much indoors, but a few weeks ago I had it on this trainer, the Kickr, and nope, was not comfortable. Couldn't do it. So road bike's sitting over there, unridden. Doesn't even have handlebar tape right now. Got halfway through replacing it and quit. But road bike outdoors, which I need to take my tri bike outdoors. I need to go to a more isolated location than downtown Seattle for the tri bike, obviously. But I haven't ridden the tri bike outdoors even once this season, which I think that's another thing about triathletes, and like triathletes get a lot of crap for not being good cyclists. Some people, like road cyclists, say that about triathletes all the time. That's one thing that I'm fearing for this summer racing is like nobody's been in the water. People have been running. Very few people, like there's probably people who are maybe at some of their highest cycling fitness they've ever been at because they've been riding so much indoors, but myself included, haven't been doing much riding outside. Like there's just that aspect of the sport where like you just can't do everything inside successfully. So like you gotta ride your bike. You gotta actually know how to swim. It's tough. Hi Zeke. My dog wants to join in on the stream. Will you go lay down? Good boy. Laws, I can't imagine an hour 15 drive. That's, I mean, you gotta do what you gotta do. I get that, like, obviously. But, damn, that's a long drive. What's the duathlon scene? I don't actually know, as silly as that is. I've never gotten into duathlon. I imagine it exists, just because Seattle has, almost everything. But I don't know. I think that if I were a race director, I think a duathlon might be a really good thing to promote right now, because you've probably got people who are strong on the bike, strong on the run, and haven't touched water in 6 months. And especially if you're a beginner who's like learning to swim, doesn't have that swim confidence, duathlon would be amazing right now. Like duathlon would be like great. You could race, you're not afraid of the water. That's a win. So it might be a really good move if people promoted that. Bucket list races. That's a good question. So this is probably not many people's bucket list race, but Ironman Coeur d'Alene, the full. So I grew up in Coeur d'Alene and I watched that race for 10 years. I volunteered at it more times than I can count, more times than I probably even remember. That's what got me into the sport. And I was so excited because I was like a teen, and eventually I learned how to, like, I got into the sport when I was in my low 20s, and I was all excited because I was like, I was almost good enough to make my first full attempt, and I was like, next year I'm gonna do a full, and they canned it, and then Ironman Coeur d'Alene went away. They turned it into a half, so I just never got an opportunity to do it, but it's coming back next year. So I am 100% signing up for Ironman Coeur d'Alene next year. It's on a 3-year rotation with, I think, St. George and somewhere else. So super hyped. But Challenge Roth looks interesting. What's that one, Norse Command or whatever, where they like drop you off a barge or something like that. Like, it's just so over the top and so crazy. Like, I don't even know if that race is actually good. I'm just a sucker for like, oh, okay. They drive you out into the middle of this like glacial lake and drop you off. I'm like, okay, that sounds fun. My grandparents emigrated from Norway, so I've never been back, or even to Scandinavia, but I've always had that like interesting connection. So that race sounds fun. Ironman Kona, from what I've heard, I know a few people who've been, they all said that other than the championship aspect, it's not actually that great of a course. Like, not to say it's not an amazing race. I would love to go. But from what I've heard, the course isn't like as fantasy worthy as maybe people think it is. It's just hot and windy and flat and desolate. So that's my mental justification for never qualifying. All uphill once you finish the swim. That sounds terrible. That sounds terrible. But maybe a boon for people like me who are light and have low FTPs. Not that fast on a flat, but I can go up a hill better than some. I don't know. Are there any races I'm missing? One thing, oh, actually, here's a general answer. I would love to do more local races, not corporate branded races. And I don't even mean Ironman. I just mean like I'm not opposed to Ironman at all, but I like supporting local races. The best race I've ever done was, it's gone now. I can't even recommend it. The Post Falls, or not Post Falls, the Hayden Triathlon in Hayden, Idaho. It was a sprint. Probably only had 150 people in it, 200, and it was around for like 5-8 years, something like that. And like, I don't even know how to convey it. It was organized really well. The race directors were super involved and just good people. It was just a fun race. Same for also actually the Coeur d'Alene Triathlon, not Ironman Coeur d'Alene. There is currently an Olympic distance race called the Coeur d'Alene Triathlon, and same thing, just really organized really well. The race directors seem like, I don't know them personally, but like, it's just a fun race, right? So I want to discover more of those small local races that are just not corporate, that just show up, put on a good race, go home. I love stuff like that. Yeah, well, the race started at 11 a.m. is exactly my style. It's like the worst part of Ironman. People ask what the worst part about this stupid sport is, and I'm like, waking up at 5 for a race. That's like it's like the worst thing you could possibly do to me. Yeah, like, club races are so good. Like, I think it's just because it's like they have no benefit. Like, they're not in it for the money. Race directors don't make meaningful amounts of money at all, if they even make a profit. They're probably in it because they have a club there and they just want to put on a good race. I love stuff like that. Like, that's exactly what I want out of a race. They're just in it to help people out and make a fun race. That's perfect. So if anyone, Alvin, if you're still here, I know you're on Zwift all the time. I think this is the sprint, right? This is I think like at the top of this climb or whatever, I think eventually there's a sprint. I feel like putting down a little bit of work, maybe. We'll see. Yeah, join the club. I should get in a tri club. I don't know if I have the right personality for it. Like, I just want to show up and ride my bike and then go home. I don't necessarily want to do a 20-minute cafe stop every time. Like, I've had rides where I love doing that, but most of my time is just, I don't really have time for that. If I have a 3-hour ride, I need to do a 3-hour ride. I don't want to do 2 hours plus 45 minutes of other stuff. Same on the personality, which is funny because that's actually why I originally got into making videos. Is I think there's so many people who do triathlon who, I think there's a bit of an individual aspect to it. Like, most of our time is spent solo. Like, road cyclists, you can ride with a group all the time. Triathletes, like, if you want to be safe, you're 20 feet apart. In your tri bike, you're yelling at each other constantly. It's just not enjoyable. And then if you're swimming with someone, you're not really chatting much, just hanging out at the wall. And when you're running, it's hard to find people who are at your exact pace running. I've found it's not that they don't exist, it's just like, it's hard to find those people who your schedule matches up and your fitness matches up and your goals match up. Hard to do. Well, I guess I'm wrong on the sprint thing. I'm gonna do one sprint on my tri bike, just for fun. Oh, that didn't work at all. It's hard to sprint on a tri bike. Got it. Okay. I knew there was a sprint around here somewhere, but I didn't know where it was. That's the one that's like, you go down a hill, then over the bridge. Okay. See, now my heart rate's high because I'm dumb. Yep. Okay, I thought so. That's like the one sprint I know of. Yeah, I'm still pretty new to Zwift, so I'm trying to get the route badges so I can upgrade bikes. Just because I'm a sucker for a pretty bike. But if anyone knows, I don't think, as far as I can tell, in Zwift, there's a way to, like, I selected a route when I started, but when I'm done with this route, I think I have to completely turn Zwift off to find another route, which is just silly to me. Like, unless I'm like, maybe I'm just totally wrong. If there's another way, that'd be awesome. But I haven't found it. No, you're fine for hogging the chat. I'm happy someone's chatting. Gives me someone to talk to. That's the funny thing about this is my first stream, so I didn't know if there was going to be no one here at all. So I'm happy to have someone to talk to. Can't collect more than one route badge on one ride. Okay, Zwift. Which is fine if you're doing like a 30-mile route, but some of these routes are like 5 miles. So you're gonna exit Zwift like 5 times in one ride. That doesn't make sense. You have to close it out if you're looking for route achievements. Okay. Without turning this into a Zwift versus trainer road thing, because that's a rant for another day. I like how in Trainer Road, I can just go to the Trainer Road forums and be like, hey, at Nate, their CEO, I don't like this. And it's not that he's gonna instantly do what everybody says, but I feel like they take feedback really well. And I feel like when I read Zwift forums, a lot of people talk about things that are like, oh yeah, this has been broken for like a year, or like, oh, everyone's wanted this fixed forever and it's not fixed. And I shouldn't really speak to that because I haven't used Zwift long enough to have an opinion, but it feels like Zwift has a lot of quirks that I haven't learned yet. TR forums are the best forums. Slow Twitch is good, but Slow Twitch has a lot of people who are extremely experienced, who've been doing triathlon for longer than I've been alive. And that's great for knowledge, but it also means that sometimes you get kind of stuck in your ways. I've been guilty of that in the past. And the opinion of somebody who's been doing something for 30 years is not necessarily maybe what a beginner needs to hear, per se. So I think Trainer Road is good or not Trainer Road, Slow Twitch. Slow Twitch is good if you already know a lot, because you can kind of filter through the different levels of opinions. Trainer Road forums are great though. Yes, you're right. Reddit Triathlon is pretty solid. I like Reddit Triathlon a lot. I think in terms of like beginner friendliness, Reddit Triathlon might be the best. Trainer Road, very good. Slow Twitch is just going to tell you to search, which is fine, I guess. But Slow Twitch is, yeah, it's the more advanced version, I think, for the pros and cons for everything that comes with that. Trainer Road forums are great. Zwift forums, I browsed, but I don't feel like they're really talking about training much. They're talking about Zwift, from what I read, like the program itself, not so much like training. Reddit Triathlon. So Reddit's a website, reddit.com, you spelled it right. And then reddit.com/r/triathlon. So within Reddit are separate communities called subreddits, little like focused things, topic areas. And our triathlon is a pretty good one. Our triathlon is very beginner supportive. Like if you have a question, nobody's going to jump at you for not knowing something, which I really like. I don't feel like Trainer Road is very good in that way too. I just think Reddit Triathlon is really beginner supportive group, which I appreciate. Oh, I think that might be it. That was an hour. That flew by really quickly. Yeah. Thanks, Laws. Thanks, Alvin, for joining. It's nice to chat with someone rather than just stare at a game for the entire time. If you want to come back in the future, I don't know if I'm going to do it this Tuesday, but yeah, Laws, to answer the same discussion you had earlier. Might do some Zwift racing. If I do, it'll be Tuesday night. Yeah, so the one thing I'll say about Reddit is those subreddits that I talked about. Different communities have different personalities. So like the Reddit Triathlon sub is very supportive, is very good. Different subreddits, so like r/running or r advanced running or NFL, whatever, like there's very different personality types on very different subreddits. So when I say that our triathlon is a good group, that doesn't necessarily mean that every other group is as good. Is basically what I would say there. Some are kind of toxic, but some are pretty good. So yeah, hour easy on Zwift, calling it a day. Yeah, that was fun. not too bad. Hope you all enjoyed the stream. Thanks for joining along, I suppose. I don't know how to end a stream well, but that's how I'm going to do it. All right. Have a good day, everyone. I'll see you on the next one, I suppose. Bye. You guys too. Take care.